Today, I'm joined by Dae Bogan, Head of Third-Party Partnerships at the Mechanical Licensing Collective. Welcome, Dae, and thank you for joining us on Caspio's podcast. I think to kick things off, why not introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself, your background, and your company?
So my name is Dae Bogan. I'm the head of third-party partnerships of the MLC, the Mechanical Licensing Collective. I'm also an adjunct professor at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, where I teach music industry entrepreneurship and innovation. The MLC, we are a music rights organization in the United States under the United States Copyright Office. So it's sort of a quasi-governmental agency. And my role is that I head up partnerships, which includes a lot of many different functions, including outreach, partnerships, strategic education, and outreach to music creators and music rights holders around the world, as well as building sort of tools and resources to basically affect the work that we do at the MLC, and to work and to collaborate with companies around the world. So we'll dive a little bit into that in a moment.
Sounds good. So I also noticed as well, Dae, that you've been recently awarded a prestigious accolade. I know you're probably not going to want to talk about it, but Maestro of Metadata. What does that mean?
So I'm a big nerd. So let's start with the word metadata, right? So metadata is information about data, and it's basically granular data about some more some other sets of data. So in the music industry, there's an organization called the Music Business Association, and it's sort of a membership-based trade association for professionals in the music industry. And every year they have an annual award called the Busy Awards, where the industry sort of come together and vote on and recognize professionals in different categories. And this year I won the Maestro of Metadata, or Master of Metadata Award, for the work that I do in building solutions and technology around metadata, but in particular because of a platform that I launched that is powered by Caspio at MLC. So it's really bringing all these tools together to innovate and affect change in the music industry. But Caspio is a very big part of that award, because ultimately the platform that was part of the basis of the award is powered by Caspio.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to diving into that a little bit more with you. So for those people that are listening or watching the video and are not familiar with MLC, what does the company do?
So the MLC, actually, I have a cool little video, so I'm going to share my screen.
Cool.
And we can have a little video to tee up that we can play that most people watch. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen right now. We have lots of videos about the music industry and about us, but this is going to be the 60-second overview of the MLC.
You're a music creator and want to start making money off your music. So you sign up for a music distribution service that uploads your songs to the top platforms. Now, your songs are streamed by thousands of listeners every month across the United States. But you might not know that with every stream, you earn separate royalties as an artist and a songwriter. Although you get paid artist royalties by your distributor, many distributors do not collect and pay songwriter royalties. Your songwriter royalties are paid to music rights organizations. Performance royalties are paid to performing rights organizations. In the US, some of those are ASCAP, BMI, GMR, and CSAC. And digital mechanical royalties are paid to the Mechanical Licensing Collective, or the MLC. If you want to collect all of your US mechanical streaming money from your song, you should join the MLC. It's free to join and pays out 100% of the mechanical royalties that it collects on your behalf. And you will receive royalty payments monthly. So what are you waiting for? Join the MLC today and get paid.
So that's our little explainer video for artists. To add to that, basically, in 2018, Congress passed the Music Modernization Act of 2018, and this was a three-part legislation, Title I, Title II, and Title III, that updated the copyright laws in the United States. Title I, called the Musical Work Modernization Act, established a new musical rights organization in the United States, regulated by the Copyright Office, United States Copyright Office. That is the MLC. So the MLC is a quasi-governmental agency regulated by the Copyright Office with direction by Congress, and is responsible for paying royalties from digital music services like Spotify and Apple to copyright owners, which may be individual songwriters or artists, or music publishers or companies like that, not only in the United States, but globally.
Wow. What a really good overview that is. I think everybody's going to have a much better idea of what MLC does. So thank you for sharing that, Dae. So you've been a Caspio customer at MLC for around 3 years now, but I know going back, it stretches the relationship with yourself and with Caspio back to 2011. So I know you've built also a lot of applications as well. So can you remember going back to 2011, what kind of challenges were you facing and how did you find Caspio?
So, yeah, so we use Caspio at the MLC, but I was the one who brought Caspio into the MLC. I've brought Caspio in as a solution into other companies and projects that I've worked on, and recommended Caspio to many other startup entrepreneurs who look for low-code ways of building applications, websites, and things like that. Rewind 13 years to 2011. I had been working as a music industry entrepreneur. I had a small record label and a small music publishing company and a small artist management company. So I had these 3 music companies. I was young. I was in my mid-20s, living in Los Angeles, but I was tech savvy enough to be able to do graphic design, to build websites, but I wasn't a software developer. So I could conceptualize how I wanted data to be structured, how I wanted relationships to work between databases, and also I could conceptualize what type of functionality I wanted on the end user side of applications that I could sort of conceptualize, but I couldn't actually write the code. And at that time, probably around 2010, 2011, is when I just stumbled upon Caspio. So at the time, I was an entrepreneur with a small catalog of songs in Los Angeles, and the goal was to make these songs available for music supervisors whose job is to find songs and place them in TV shows and movies and commercials. And it was very difficult to send emails out to all these different random music supervisors and say, hey, here's a link to a song that we have on a private SoundCloud page, or here's another link, or here's an attachment. It wasn't efficient, it wasn't effective, and it wasn't manageable. So when I discovered Caspio, I had been thinking about a way to build a system internally. I'm going to share my screen here. A system internally to basically just to be able to search and discover music from my catalog, and invite music supervisors and music licensees like brands and advertisers to basically have a way to search my music catalog. And this is 2011. So this is 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what it looked like. These are screenshots from the first application that I built. Again, this is 2011. So that was, I was, I think 26 or yeah, it's about 26 years old, or 25 or 26 when I built this application, and it was very easy. I didn't know a single line of, I didn't know how to write any coding. I knew a little bit of kind of website design, so HTML5. So being able to embed HTML5, HTML code into a web page is very simple, but all of this functionality and understanding the relationship between data pages was something that I was able to explore and learn. What was really helpful, not only in this experience 13 years ago, but also continued throughout my my life cycle with Caspio, has been the Caspio community, asking questions to other Caspio customers in the forums and being able to figure out tricks and ways to expand, or not really expand, really, but to optimize, take full advantage of Caspio's functionality. You have really great support documentation, which has expanded years over years over years and continue to be updated, which is great with new releases and new features. But the support, the Caspio support itself has been fantastic. And in addition to the Caspio support is the Caspio community, the forums have been fantastic. And I've leveraged both for complex and simple tasks and troubleshooting over 13 years. I want to say that I wanted to kind of call that out because that's been really great for someone who's not a developer, who's not necessarily paying a separate fee for customer support, who's just leveraging the skills and the shared sense of interest in Caspio from the community and the forums. There's people who are passionate about it, like myself, who's been doing this for 13 years, building products that have an impact on a particular customer base or constituency. In this case, we're talking about music industry, but these were independent artists, and as a result of being able to build a low-code, highly functional application, we were able to get their music promoted and get their music pitched for film and TV. And that was 13 years ago when there weren't many systems that existed that were being hard coded by developers. So that was the first entry for me, leveraging Caspio as a real resource, as a real part of not just the tech stack, but really a part of the business. Ultimately, it was the business, the product that was being delivered was this experience, and we made that experience efficient and effective by using Caspio. So you can see here, it's not the most beautiful because this is 13 years ago.
It's going back 13 years, and what makes me smile about this day is that you've clearly become a Caspio expert, even though you probably don't think you are, but over the last 13 years. And you mentioned you've built lots of applications, so I'd like to see if you've got those as well to see.
So that was 13 years ago. Yeah. Let's fast forward to, and this is, so what's interesting about Caspio has been a part of my entire music industry career journey as well.
Yeah.
Because I entered the music industry as an entrepreneur in 2008, my senior year at UCLA, and started an artist management company. A few years later, I started the publishing company and a record label. But at the time, I was just starting to transition into music industry full time around 2011, 2012. So Caspio has been a part of my journey, and I have used it as I continue to conceptualize technical products in the music industry, business products. So this was the first. Now, right after I launched this, I started grad school. So I'm going to use a little tie-in as I give a through line. I started grad school. I got a master's degree in music industry administration with a specialization on music publishing and copyright, and diving into metadata, music rights metadata, and how that data impacted how artists were paid around the world, based on how music is licensed between territories and licensed within territories. So this was research that I was doing in grad school. And while I was doing that research, I started to conceptualize another product. And that product became a platform. Let me get this out of the way here. A platform that I call Royalty Claim. Royalty Claim was the world's first search engine of unclaimed music royalties and licenses. So if you're an artist in some country and for some reason you're not getting paid for your music, this database was going to be the source for people to be able to search. As you can see, this is Caspio, with a combination of the website builder that I use called Webflow. So that was my stack, Caspio and Webflow. And then the graphic design is mine. This was simple. Now, I first built this as a research tool. I became a lecturer at UCLA after grad school. So I built this in 2016. I graduated grad school in 2015. So just to take a step back, my first Caspio product was in 2011. I finished grad school, became a professor, and became a researcher for the Music Industry Research Association, which is a global research association. And my expertise and my research was being used by not only major companies, but also societies and territories, including the United States government, used my research to do an analysis of a bill. That bill later became a law. That law created MLC, and I became an executive. So the research was about licenses in different territories. These are different countries. These are different societies in different countries, as you can that had money for different artists. But this was all powered by Caspio, and I built this for researchers and other psychologists and other researchers at other universities. And when I presented this research and I presented the application at a conference at UCLA to the music industry, major companies came up to me asking how they can get access to this tool. This was built to be a research tool for researchers and academics. Because of that interest, I decided to make it a business and not just a research product. And I launched this as a business called Royalty Claim. So it was basically the world's first search engine, but the search engine was for researchers. This is all Caspio, as you can see here.
Yeah.
But what this is showing is money being held at societies around the world on behalf of artists, and this data was being pulled and curated and brought into Caspio tables. And these applications and functionality and navigation between these tables allow for the first ever transparent way of looking at multinational unclaimed royalties for the music industry. I presented this demo at a conference and a number of conferences. This conference is in Los Angeles at the Association for Independent Music Conference. I presented at lots of different places. And worked with various law schools here. This is Fordham University in New York. This is actually an executive from Spotify, an executive from representing Apple. So this was all research-based stuff. This was Caspio-based, Caspio-built tools that was affecting a multi-billion-dollar industry. I ultimately ended up launching this as a business, and it got acquired. So it was my first Caspio-based business that I got acquired.
Amazing.
So this started as a research project, with Caspio being a low-cost way of building a research project, and it became a high-impact tool to the music industry as a whole, and ultimately beneficial to me as an entrepreneur because it was my first, it was among the first startups that I had acquired. I had 3 acquisitions. I can't say it's my first, but this was among the first group because I had 3 acquisitions in the same year, and this was one of them. So that was 2016 when I built this, and guess what? I built the first MVP in 10 days.
Wow.
Because I was so familiar with Caspio at that point, having used it before. 5 years later, by the time I built it, so this was Caspio before I went to grad school. Then I went to grad school and got more industry expertise, and then I built another version, another platform that was Caspio powered. This had a much bigger impact. The first one impacted my business. This one impacted the industry. And moving forward, now fast forward to the MLC. So after this was acquired in 2017, I went on and did some other things. I ended up later in 2018, a law passed in the United States called the Music Modernization Act. So this passed October 11th. Actually, one day, tomorrow is October 11th, so almost exactly 6 years ago. Was the 6-year anniversary of this law. This law passed. This was a very important law to the music industry. It's a very important law to everyone because it changed the way songwriters get paid. And my research that I was able to conduct that went into creating the royalty claim that ultimately was a part of this, right? So my research was used by the Congressional Budget Office in doing their analysis of this when it was a bill. And as a result, one of the attorney generals of the general counsels of the Copyright Office invited me to DC to come to DC and talk to the Library of Congress about how this new agency that was going to be created in the future, which I now work at, would go about doing global outreach and how strategic outreach. So I went there and talked about that. So fast forward to today, I now work at the MLC. I was one of the founding executives of the MLC, and my role is in partnerships. We've paid out over $2 billion in royalties, but one of the ways in which we're able to find the right people is because we have a Caspio-powered platform that I built. And here's a quick video to talk about that.
Yeah.
But before I jump into that video, I want to quickly demonstrate the issue that we are addressing. The challenge is unmatched royalties, unmatched recordings. Again, this challenge goes back even to my grad school days of researching, building royalty claim. Before that, goes back into working with artists and songwriters. So this has been my career, and my use of Caspio has been a evolving relationship over the years, and it's becoming more and more impactful, from something that contributed to my business specifically to something that was more of a research and conceptual to something that now has a direct impact on the livelihood of music creators globally. So here's the issue that we are addressing. As a music creator, let's say you're a music creator in Los Angeles and you use what's called a music distributor to upload your music and get it onto Spotify, Apple, and Tidal. Let's say this song right here, just any band, any artist on Spotify. So how did this song get here on Spotify? That song got there on Spotify because they use what's called a music distributor, whose job is to distribute their music onto Spotify, onto Apple, onto Amazon Music. And then these three services report that usage to the MLC, because that is the new law, the Music Modernization Act. It requires every DSP to report to us. Our job then is to determine who the copyright owner and the songwriters are of this track, and then pay them or their publisher. If we're able to do that, then we can pay them, and they become a member. If we're unable to do that, we have a database where we're unable to match the reports from Spotify and Apple and Tidal to a known copyright owner. So it's an unknown, right? We call it unmatched recordings. It sits in this database. And I thought, well, I know a way to make that database visible to the music industry. As an organization, we have a tool for our members to be able to search this database, but only our members. Beyond our members are the music distributors, and music distributors in general cannot be a member of our organization based on the law, but they are the ones who know who the artists are. So I thought there has to be a way to build a platform that allows this music distributor to find the recordings that they distributed that we have money for, and then to go back and tell their artists that we exist. And in conceptualizing that, I built what's called the Distributor Unmatched Recordings Portal.
This video is for music distributors and provides an overview of the Distributor Unmatched Recordings Portal. The DURP provides you with access to a database of information about sound recordings that you've distributed that have related unmatched mechanical royalties waiting to be paid out by the MLC. Every month, digital services report sound recording streams and downloads to the MLC. The MLC then tries to match the sound recording information to the related musical work information in our database. If we have not yet been able to match the sound recording to a musical work in our database, we refer to the royalties as unmatched. The MLC needs to pay these royalties to the party administering the publishing for the musical work the recording relates to. Many of your clients may be entitled to these royalties because they are independent artists who are also self-administered songwriters or are record labels that have a music publishing division. You can use the data in the DURP to help your clients collect these royalties if they are entitled to them, either by directing them to become members of the MLC or to sign up with a publishing administration service that will collect these royalties from the MLC on their behalf. The DURP provides you with an opportunity to provide even more value to your clients. Visit our DURP website page for more info and to request access.
DURP is a funny word. I created it because I thought that would be really funny. But it stands for Distributor Unmatched Recordings Portal. And what is this portal? This is a Caspio-powered portal that allows music distributors from around the world. We have 93 companies in 18 countries that use this portal. Through this portal, this is the portal. As you can see, when you land in it, we have a Caspio database data page right here. These are all Caspio data pages that are hidden, but with style. Caspio data pages. This allows a music distributor whose job it is to distribute music to Spotify to see when we as an organization have money for that recording, and then to go back and notify their customer. This was game-changing because nothing like this existed before. And when they do that, when they go back and tell their customer, we have success stories. Here's a success story. This is an artist who lives in Perth, Australia, who, because of the DURP, we were able to identify and pay out over $20,000 in royalties that he didn't know even existed.
Wow. Wow.
This is two more artists. Adam was a bedroom music producer and DJ. Kyle Hume is a singer-songwriter. As a matter of fact, here's Adam. This is his Spotify page. And this is this artist getting millions of streams, but he doesn't have a music publisher. He doesn't have a record label. Is not aware of the intricacies of how the music licensing world works, especially since we're a new organization created by a new law that was passed before the pandemic, and we were created during the pandemic in 2021. So by using our Caspio powered platform, his distributor was able to notify him that we had money for him, and collectively we were able to pay these two individuals out over 6 figures just this year alone.
Staggering, yeah.
So the impact is much greater. As I was saying, the story goes along with my career, starting with 13 years ago when I'm just really getting my foot in the door of the music industry. And as I've grown as academically, as a professor, as an executive, I've also have increased the impact of my use of Caspio.
I think your story, I've got to say, is just so impressive. And it's like I speak to so many customers on a daily basis. And it's staggering to see the kind of the changes from 2011 to where we are now, not just in terms of the way the app looks, but kind of the progression. And you mentioned earlier about the learning curve for yourself in terms of not really being a low code and a code provider, but you actually understand you've gone from building that yourself to what you've got now with MLC, which is so impressive.
Absolutely. It's great using Caspio as well, because in my particular expertise, in my field, I deal with data-based logic.
Yeah.
How does data relate? How can I analyze data to solve problems? How can I analyze data to find insights? So there's a lot of logical thinkers out there in the big data world, right? Data scientists, if you will. I consider myself a data scientist, but not all of us are software developers, and we have limitations to using SQL or Excel. But to bring that into a usable, beautiful user experience is a whole different jump. It's a big jump. So being able to conceptualize the use and structure of data, and then to be able to build something and build functionality on top of that, and then to be able to play up with it, and then to be able to spin up different visualizations, especially with charts and graphs on a whim, and test out whether certain views have a different impact than others, and then using little tweaks and inside of Caspio styles to change colors and things without having to learn how to do Ruby on Rails or to do JavaScript or do any of that. Now, if you know that stuff, it's even better, right? I know a little bit of JavaScript now, and I know a little bit of C++ now, but in the beginning you didn't. And over time, you're able to bring in, some additional elements of website design, web development, but you don't have to go that far, right? This is a very simple page. When you look at our data page, it's a very simple, clean page. But the impact of this platform is humongous. And there's multiple pages with multiple. There's probably 60 different Caspio data pages across this particular use of Caspio, and they're interactive and they're interrelated, and then we're passing data between them, whether it's through a URL or through connected data. But you understand and you get to explore how to use it, and it becomes really fun. I remember when I first started using Caspio, I would spend hours. I mean, the sun would rise just because I was having so much fun creating all of these experiences. This is not the only Caspio experience at the MLC. This is the most impactful that is outward facing to the music industry globally. But we have other uses. So you go to our website, MLC, again, a quasi-governmental music rights organization. And as you scroll through our website, for example, we have this page called members, and we have this search called missing member lookup. And you will notice that this is a Caspio powered platform. Through this Caspio's very simple search and result data page, we're able to track down copyright owners that we have millions of dollars in royalties to. So the impact of that data page is exponentially more valuable to us because of the purpose of its existence.
Yeah.
We have millions of dollars in royalties sitting at our organization for these rights holders, and this is the search engine through which we find them. And that's not the only one. We have another one. When the Spotifys of the world and the Apples of the world decide to operate in the United States under the license, under the law, again, this is all part of U.S. law, that license must be publicized to the general public in accordance with the Music Modernization Act.
Yeah.
This is the medium through which that publication is done, a Caspio application. So again, high impact, low code, low cost, compared to if we were to hard do this. Yeah. So these are all notices from, this sounds familiar, Apple looks familiar, right? So yes. These are some of the biggest music companies in the world, and they publish their notices through our Caspio-based applications.
Amazing. Dae, going back to like 3 years ago, when you started kind of working at MLC, in terms of how did you introduce Caspio to the rest of MLC?
So I was one of the original executives. Right. That we're kind of a group of us hired around the same time.
Yeah.
The Music Modernization Act was passed in 2018, but the organization MLC was not designated until 2019. And the top of 2020, the first quarter of 2020 is basically when they began hiring the executives, right? There was a board that was sort of formed in 2019, and an executive team whose job it was to really conceptualize and bring this organization to life, including determining which tools we will use, what accounting software will we use, what HR software partner will we use, what project management software will we use. I brought in 2 applications that I've been using for many years in my career, Caspio and Asana. And I've built a lot of Asana-based things as well.
Yeah.
And now our entire organization uses Asana for project management, and we use Caspio for sort of these low-code, quick to spin up applications. Now we have a very well established and very experienced and amazing technology team based in London that builds our most important platform, which is our member portal and all of our systems for royalty payments. But these systems that are about displaying information, making information available, taking what would normally be an Excel spreadsheet of data and making it a highly functioning, highly engaging application, that's what we use Caspio for. And we have a separate team that builds our member portal. But Caspio has been incredibly useful because we don't have to engage, 9 people in our technology team in London. I'm the single person at the organization that builds and manages all of our Caspio applications.
Yeah, we hear that so often, Dae, when I'm talking to customers, is they're not needing to use their IT people to build these applications. They're not needing, like you said, a team that they can focus on something else and allow the people that might not be tech savvy to build something which is going to be really beneficial and have a lot of impact.
Very important, because you have ideas, and like I said, you don't have the capabilities. I actually have a training coming up with our marketing team, which is based in Nashville, because they have ideas of things they want to build and how they want to visualize and do analysis of our marketing data. And I'm going to train them on building that into building their own applications in Caspio so they can do that and not have to rely on our technology team.
Yeah, no, it's great. And obviously you've built several applications that you've shown here. Is there any standout features that have really helped you as kind of your journey's progressed as well?
There's been a lot because, I started 13 years ago. There's been a lot of new features since then. There weren't document embeds back then. There weren't PDFs back then. There was no, any kind of API integrations or webhooks on any of that stuff. So I've seen all that stuff happen over the years. I don't necessarily utilize everything. There are some things that I'm considering. I just haven't had the time to explore. There's one thing that really, and this has been around a long time, but because we work in metadata and money, the calculations and the pivot tables and all that stuff is super important for us. I mean, there's some classic features and functionality that's been around for a long time that just is always important. Using views and building application with that, and I haven't personally used them yet because it's going to require our technology team to get involved, and that's the webhooks.
Yeah.
But I think we have some use cases where it would make sense for us. It's just really about our prioritizing our technology team.
Yeah, understand. So your app that you've got today, the one that you showed us, which is kind of the more external facing app, how's that changed from like the conception to where you are now?
Well, yes, we've built new features in it. I mean, just using Caspio
Yeah.
functionality. We have this DURP training page where we have these different videos explain how to do certain things. Well, I get feedback from our users, and they may say, there's things that we need to do, and we built out based on that feedback. This is the user facing, but there's also an entire application that is admin facing, right? So it's not just one application. I mean, platform. We built two platforms on two different for two different user bases. The admin platform for this, and then the user platform for this. But there's new things that we built. There's one thing called data transfer. There's an entire video about data transfers and how it works.
Later, if I move too fast.
But
there's a Q&A.
I'm not sure if it, from our needs standpoint, in terms of what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's a way for a user to request that data that's in another user's account gets transferred to them. Basically, that's the purpose of it.
Hey, who are typically the end users that are using this application?
These are music distributors around the world in 18 countries. And some of them are technical, highly technical. As a matter of fact, I did a webinar, and you can see here I'm giving an example of how this new feature works. This is all Caspio-based platform. They can submit a request to get data. I did a webinar a couple of months ago showcasing one of the companies in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, that uses our portal to find artists in Latin America to pay out. So again, we have companies in Albania, we have companies in France, London, UK, China, all over the world that is using this system. And it's been very helpful. Like as I demonstrated with these success stories, is at the end of the day, there's a person behind this data. I received the award of Maestro of metadata. This is metadata, right? Every single one of these fields, that's metadata music industry. When I click on this is just a view of metadata. Otherwise, this would be a line in an Excel sheet or a CSV, right? But this is not just that. This is this guy and this guy, right? And this guy. So taking billions of lines, I'm talking billions of lines about streams on DSPs and the data behind it, and building something to make me find and reach this guy who I didn't know who existed.
Yeah.
That's what the DURP does. It allows us to track down these artists who we don't know who they are based on simply just metadata, and then to get them paid and to ultimately change their lives, because they're now getting paid every month from us, and we're paying rent every month and bills every month and things that they wouldn't have known they had, because they just
I think I love it because there's so many use cases for Caspio, and the customers I speak to, they're all using it very differently, uniquely for themselves. And I think with this story that you've got here, it's just so impressive, not just from your journey from 13 years ago to where you are now in terms of working with Caspio, but you've got something like that, which is really impacting people's lives in a very positive way. I think it's such a good success story.
Thank you. And I do too. I mean, I don't think there's any project that I would work on that is data oriented, where I would not bring Caspio in for at least the way to build a prototype. I did build another company called Tune Registry that was also acquired, and it still exists. And I was prototyping that with Caspio. At the same time, I was building royalty claims. So there's been lots of other ideas I've had too. I used an existing Caspio account to come up with to test and play with other ideas that doesn't go anywhere. But for individuals who are data driven, entrepreneurs or data-driven professionals in whatever their function is and whatever industry they're in.
Yeah.
What Caspio allows is for us to be able to manifest that data into actionable insights. And when you can see the outcome, which in the case are these artists who are basically getting paid as a result of this platform that exists,
Yeah.
It really creates a value to the platform that is not intrinsic to the functionality of it, or the plan that you're paying for.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's us being able to find and change the lives of these young artists around the world. And that would not have been, it could have been possible, of course, but it would not have been possible at the speed at which we did it, had we not used something like Caspio, because otherwise someone would have to code it. And you can see this is a massive platform. And I only showed you one. I didn't even show you all the features of it, but there's also the admin one. So it's a lot that went into it. If we had to hard code it, it would be a year.
Yeah. No, it's so impressive in so many ways. You mentioned earlier about the feedback, and I'm always really intrigued as to how our customers obtain feedback from their end users. How does that work at MLC?
So we have a contact page inside the portal, the DURP, so people can send us feedback, or they just send an email. I did build in royalty claim. I did build a specific Caspio-driven feature requests sort of page where you can input a feature request, you can upvote, downvote. Oh, that was a feature that came out, and that's when I built it. This was in 2016 or 17, and Caspio recently came out with either a new feature or basically an explanation of how to use this existing functionality to create that type of experience. Either way, this was this Caspio announcement about this kind of how to build an upvote downvoting kind of thing, and I use it to be able to have people do feature requests and then to not repeat the same feature request, but to upvote an existing feature request. And I did that in royalty claim. I'm not doing that at this moment. I'm doing something else, but there's just lots of features in Caspio, and I like the email features, getting email notifications of submissions, things that came out since triggers, automations, scheduled tasks, like all that stuff, didn't exist before when I first started, being able to create views and more. There's more criteria and functionality in that experience that didn't exist then. So over 13 years, I've seen a lot of new Caspio features, and some of them I am using. We have when you use the search for DSP licenses, you can actually print out the document from the Caspio page. So.
Yeah, I think it's, like I say, it's for me watching it from the outside in, the progression that you've got, not just personally, but with your applications that I can see is quite staggering in a really impressive way. And I suppose really is that if you could go back just 3 years let's go back to 2011, and was there any aha moments along the way you thought Caspio is the right fit for this, and it was something kind of triggered going, actually, I can do a lot more with low code and Caspio than what I initially thought?
So we talk about my entry point to Caspio.
Yeah.
Before Caspio, I was already building intranets,
right,
which goes all the way back to 2009. So 2009, I've been building websites since high school, first of all, but there were, just kind of graphic design uploaded to an HTML page. It wasn't dynamic or interactive. And then various type of website builders came out. And then website builders started allowing sort of like e-commerce features and CMS features. So I started using website builders when I was I think maybe even further back, 2004, 2005, because I 2008 for sure, but I think also before that. But 2008, I just graduated UCLA, and I became the head of marketing of a $500 million retail chain. So I know that vividly. And the retail chain didn't have any type of supply management system for marketing material, Marcom. And I previously built one in 2004 when I was 20. Actually, no, 19 at Robex. I was the youngest marketing coordinator, and then 20 in 2005. But I built this using regular e-commerce shopping cart style stuff, right? Where you click to buy something, you put in your cart, you're ordering, you're placing orders, but it was all zeroed out. It worked, but it wasn't the best way to do it because you're using an e-commerce thing for something that doesn't require e-commerce. And then I don't remember how I stumbled upon Caspio, but I was not happy with what I was using, so that's why I was searching for something else.
Yeah.
And I somehow stumbled upon Caspio, and I decided to test it out first in my side project, which was my music business. Where my main job at the time was I was the VP of marketing and music of a retail chain, and on the side I had my little small music company. So my first project was again that the little music search thing. This was my first time building Caspio and then putting it out into the world to say, okay. And I even then I was already, using some cool integrations. Well, not integrations, but using the existing features to create a certain user experience. That's a better way of saying it. For example, embedding SoundCloud widgets so that you can actually stream the music in the search results page. So you land on the search results page, and you can listen to the MP3 that's referenced in that on that row, because there was using basically the HTML embed. So that was a cool user experience. If you were to hard code something like that, it would take a lot of money and a lot of days. And I built this in maybe a week.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things like that. And over time, as the project became a bigger scope, as the functionality required more sophistication, my needs were sort of in line with the releases of Caspio. I remember Caspio 1.1, Caspio next release. And as these releases were coming out with new features, I'm like, oh, this is a really cool feature. I think one day I could use that. I can't use it right now because I don't have the time or whatever, but that's a really interesting new feature, and I can see how I can use that. I can envision how I can use those features. So again, over time, this simple thing, eventually something more complex came about. And now we're using these, what was it? These, you have your results on your table at the bottom, and this is like common now, but when this first came out, this was new, and I was using it, and I was using different versions of it, the pie shape and things like that. So it was nice to have to be able to utilize there's multiple data pages on one page affecting other data pages, like all that kind of stuff. You can see here, this is one thing, there's another filter, submit, and then it has the results and then the chart at the top. So over time, as Caspio released more complex, more interesting functionalities, I just so happened to, in my career, have requirements for more complex, more interesting functionalities.
Yeah.
So the alignment has been really interesting.
Well, Dae, if somebody's listening to this podcast or watching the video, they've seen the applications. If they're watching the video, what advice would you give them if they're considering low code and Caspio?
Jump right in. The great thing is, you can make mistakes before you launch. You can build a lot and you can test a lot in a short amount of time than you could if you were having a software developer to develop that, right? Because I built another company called Tune Registry, and we brought in the CTO, and everything was hard coded, and it was an amazing platform, and it was acquired, and it's now a partner of MLC.
Yeah.
But I know how much money I spent as a co-founder and how much time we spent to build and to get to certain functionality and to test it versus how fast I can do something similar in Caspio. So in other words, you can build out more functionality, test more functionality, test more use cases and ideas than you could if you were hard coding it. So jump right in. You don't really have time. You're not losing time, because anytime you spend on Caspio is a fraction of the time you would spend hard coding. So if it took you 2 weeks, then you just saved 2 months. because that's I've literally built, like I said, royalty claim in 10 days, the first iteration of it, and then you can iterate over time, versus me watching our hard code platform that I co-founded, take 2 months to get out an update or something. So I would say also, I'm a visual learner and a visual educator. So before I started building Caspio, and this is also before you had the page where you do all the connections. So again, so I would draw on a piece of paper the databases, and I would do all that kind of, this relates to this and this relates to that, before you had the page that allows you now to do that. It's been around for years now, but not in 2011. So I would hand draw that, and I'd still do that, because that's just the way that's just sort of like the passion.
You're creative, clearly.
Like it's literally coming from your head. The idea is in my head. How this should look, there's no picture in my head of how the user interface should look. There's no picture to say the menu needs to be over here, and this needs to be the thing. Like it's literally a set of raw data, terabytes of raw data from DSPs, and then that's it. And then it's like, okay, now what do we do with that? So I conceptualize. That's why I'm the Maestro metadata, and that's why I won that award in our industry, because I've not just built one, not just two, not three. I built 4 or 5 platforms in the metadata space, in the music industry, that has had a global impact on the music industry. And a lot of that work, whether Caspio is the platform or whether Caspio is the platform that I prototype with, it's still part of the process. Right. So this was the announcement. This was winning the Music Business Association Award for the DURP. And as you can see, the DURP is a Caspio Power platform.
Dae, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for sharing your Caspio and low-code journey, and thank you for being a Caspio customer for 13 years. I've loved the journey. You've described it and explained it really well. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to find this of great interest to them. So thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Sully, thank you for having me. As a matter of fact, I thought about this years ago. I was like, I should come on, and they should have something like this. And now you have it.
Thank you, Dae. Appreciate it.
Thank you.